Welcome back to another episode of Nap, Not Another Podcast. I'm your host, Rodney Weather. And we got a special guest in the building. Shout out to my cameraman. We got the director and owner of Set 3 TV in the building, man. We gonna join us in the conversation today. Shane, what's happening, boss?
What's popping, man? Glad to
Chilling.
be on the episode, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, love watching it when I'm recording.
Oh yeah, man. So the topic of today, Shane, man, we talking about marriage, man.
Woo! Should have warned me about this one.
Everybody's favorite topic, you know what I mean? And so the first thing I want to do, is define marriage. Because, it's big. I have conversations with my brothers and we like looking up words, just to make sure we know what we talking about, you know what I mean? And so, but the Webster's dictionary definition is marriage is the legally or formally union of two people. And so I'm personally been married going on 7 years now. I think I'm qualified to at least start the conversation, and that's just kind of the whole point of Nap, man, and the show is to try to have the conversations, man, that I think are needed, but most people either don't know, to talk about it, don't want to talk about it, or really can't handle the conversation. And so that's why I try to, like I said, set it up this way. That way, it gives everybody an opportunity to, at the very least, hear me out, and hear us out, forgive me. But either way, it's to just spark up a new type of conversation, you know what I mean? And so, like I said, I've been married for about 7 years, bro, and the experiences that I went through is really what, not necessarily wanted me to start a podcast just to talk about marriage, but to, like I said, have the conversations. And so having been married for 7 years, I was able to learn, being on the inside and knowing that everybody says it's work. Yeah, but it's more of a personal, you know what I'm saying, work that you have to do on your side of the relationship.
Preach it, brother.
So,
preach it.
So when we find ourselves in that it's a commitment, you know what I mean? Marriage is the biggest commitment that you're gonna make, yeah, I mean,
Most definitely.
I can't really think of anything that's bigger. Starting businesses, there's a lot of different things we can do. Don't get me wrong. It's just that getting married is a big commitment. And that kind of brings me to, the first topic, which is men versus commitment. We talked briefly about this, off camera. But like I said, I definitely wanted to make sure that we get it on. And so my first issue with that, and that's why I coined it.
And sorry to stop you. Can I get it clear that what it's formal and or formal or legal?
Legally or formally.
Okay. See, that's honestly what I've been kind of sitting on for a second because I want to dig more into that. But go ahead. I just wanted to make sure.
But legally, formally. So to even, let's get into it. I think the legal aspect we're all familiar with, but I think that like the formal aspect isn't really pushed, But I think that's what most of us is really kind of already
benefits men.
Yeah, no. You know what I mean. And I think that's kind of how most relationships are, pretty formal. If we find ourselves, living with our, significant other, you know what I mean, and doing what married folks do, you know what I'm saying, outside of the going to the courthouse or, and so again, after being married, 7 years, it comes as a big surprise, but I'd rather get it out now, you know what I'm saying, than later. But I think it's dumb to get legally married. It just in America specifically because of, so many different factors, it's not to try to play, boo for men, but when you see the statistics, when you understand the experiences that other men have, the experiences that I've had, and knowing that even potentially going through, those types of situations as far as divorce or separation, and understanding that, wow, everything that I've built, out of my, my own personal, I would say efforts, like you said, going back to the efforts and really putting forth my best efforts, it's not necessarily going to waste, but I'm gonna have to I have to make sacrifices that I'm not making on my own. Like I my life is about to be put in the hands legally, you know what I'm saying, of a judge, you know what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying, an attorney or whatever the case may be, if it got to that point. And me realizing that, I still had to take, you know, my legal steps to try to protect myself, but my own legal course, my own legal what you call it, counselor is letting me know, because at the time my wife was pregnant while we were just having those kind of issues. And so I'm being told that regardless of what the situation was, I can't, you know, divorce my wife. The courts will literally postpone it until she actually has the baby. You understand what I'm saying?
Really?
So I can understand that with a woman
most
going through that.
definitely.
Yeah, but that's no one taking consideration what I am going through, you know what I'm saying, at the time. So I see the courts and the laws are taking my wife's stress, you know, of going through such a stressful type of situation, taking that into consideration, but not you know, the necessary things that I might be going through. And so again, it's not to try to point fingers, it's trying to bring light to, you know, serious situations, you know, that involves not just a men's pocketbooks, man, and financial, but his character, you know what I mean, and his relationship with his kids, his, you know, relationships with his
emotions
in-laws.
at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, it goes back to the commitment, because I wanted to make sure I got to make sure I stay on topic too, but the commitment aspect goes back into why that decision, you know what I'm saying, is such a big deal for men, for the legal aspect, but then it goes to the personal aspect and the men that women are dealing with when it comes to making that type of decision. Most people think that men are just downright afraid, you know, to just get married, you know what I mean, or just don't have enough money to be able to take care of, you know, a woman, let alone kids and stuff. And from my experience, I've known that that's not necessarily the case. You know, I think it's imperative that a man takes his time, you know, and I've said it on a jokingly arrogant level where he should date as many women as he possibly can, you know, even though I had that type of lifestyle when I was younger, but it still put me in a position to kind of break down or decipher or discern, you know, between the different young ladies that I was dealing with. You know, I know that I wasn't right about all the different things that I did, but I also was able to experience, you know, more and different types of young women that kind of played, you know, their hand in certain things that allowed me to just understand what I needed as a young man, you know, and long story short, what I needed as a man, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's I think it's very big, and I definitely want to, you know what I'm saying, make sure I get my my guest involved, but I want to definitely get your take as, you know, not being married, Shane, you know, what is that decision like for you? You know what I'm saying? Have you thought on it? Where you at when it comes to that commitment?
The formal version is looking real good to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
For sure.
Because it's like, as long as you don't do me dirty, I'm not gonna do you dirty at the end of it. Like, I'm trying to have, if I'm taking care of you prior to our divorce, then I'll take care of you after. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you have my kids. You feel me? Like,
Yep.
that's gonna be a no-brainer, because I don't want my, like, but in that, it's like, if you make it rough for me, then I might have to make it rough for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not against having all my shit in my mama name. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am not. My house can be in my mom's name. My cars can be in my mom's name. She ain't gonna call nobody on me. Like, so at that point, like, you know, the soccer player that just happened to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Like, all his shit was in his mama name, so she ain't getting nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we can go that route, and then I'll just make sure my kids is straight. Or I'll wait, if I really want to be cynical, I'll wait until your livelihood gets so low to where I'm like, Judge, it's better if the kids come with me.
Yep.
You know what I'm, and now.
And it's crazy because that's another prime example of, how a man has to protect himself. I'm not, you know, um, encouraging, men to just not deal with women or not to get married. I'm trying to encourage men to better, look out for themselves because we're naturally, created to look out, for others. You know what I mean? But it bears the question, who's looking out for you, you know what I mean? And so it's tight that soccer player really, is locked in with his mom, and it's easy to think, oh, you probably thought it was gonna, fail. Not necessarily. It's contingencies. I think it's very important that men be
Key.
more on the offensive, and have
Key.
have just things in place to, make sure that they're protected.
And that's where I feel like women kind of get over on dudes because they say, oh, you did that for a reason. Well, no, the only reason is for self-preservation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing it because I think it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, legally, if you're out fucking around and going to parties and doing all this shit, if you got a bunch of shit in your name and you fuck up somewhere, somebody could sue you and take all your shit. If your mom's sitting at the crib, ain't nobody gonna be able to touch her assets if she just chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and my thing was, was the allegations of him committing rape false, or was it still
Was that for the soccer player?
right?
Really?
I mean, it was definitely allegations, but it wasn't.
If
It
it wasn't
wasn't
good.
confirmed or anything like that. But she was already trying to file divorce before anything was
Really?
confirmed, and so, but that's another thing too. Like that's a whole nother conversation. And I meant to say grape. I know if I end up putting this on YouTube and stuff, they big on that. Like from different podcasts that I watch, they really are big on censoring.
bleep
And
it?
so like I said, just shout out to YouTube. You know what I mean? But either way, but that just to me what goes back into those relationships and that same commitment. I a lot of different guys that I watch, I can't remember his name, but either way, he was bringing up the fact that most women aren't committed. And so my very first topic, subject was, men versus commitment. But I spoke on that because it's really a big deal to me. And I know that most men really do want at least, a wife, and some kids and stuff like that. And that's a big commitment. People don't understand that marriage really is a burden. It's a big responsibility for a man, to take on a wife and to take care of her and have kids, multiple kids, and stuff like that. And so
Especially this day and age.
I'm seeing for myself, the lack of just empathy, you know what I'm saying, for men. And so all of this is literally just a gauge for, hey, I know, shout out to every man. And like I said, I wanted to make sure, yeah, I'm qualified to talk about this. I want to show being married still is cool. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like that OG who want to make sure, all right, I might have made, a couple moves along the way that wasn't the best move, but here, do this, do something differently versus so you can, have a different, perspective. And so this was much more than what the OGs was telling me. Some gas. Some gas. But it's much more, man, than what the OGs was telling me, as far as get your education, get married, when y'all getting married, like, because, it'll make you think that, what you doing or, just you taking your time there's something wrong with that. And so I just want to, bring light to the fact that there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking your time as a young man, as a man, to make that type of decision. You know what I mean? I'm still glad about the decision that I made, but you got to know, like I said, even when you make it, that's your decision. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of how committed the woman is, you need to make sure that you're dealing with a woman that is at least, trying to meet that mark. You know what I mean? And so, but that's the whole point. So it kind of showed how committed, not uncommitted, the wife or ex-wife now of the soccer player was. You just quick to, get out without, kind of being there through. So I'm not, advising anybody to stay through something that's just all bad, but there's a lot of things that you just don't understand, you know, without having all the facts. So
Especially rape allegations. I feel like if you're a good-looking celebrity, like 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be raping nobody, like, or graping nobody. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Bill Cosby, he seemed a little off. He might like a nigga like him, maybe,
yeah.
but he was trying to buy NBC, so there's other things.
It's a whole nother bag. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's crazy because it goes from one thing to another. But yeah, man, it's what I'm saying is exactly what the soccer player was on. You know, he was looking out for himself, and so of course, people can feel some type of way. But I'm very big on men just looking out for yourself. A little bit. If not the same as we look out. What I'm saying, for those that we love and stuff like that. It kind of goes back to the self love, all of that. But it's being very specific to relationships and marriage. I know it seems like we getting off point, but
No, I
but
was gonna
really
ask
the
you, do
same.
you feel like men are allowed to stick up for themselves?
I know that they are, but like you were saying, I think a lot of men are in their feelings, and we all know, it's just men, like, we hate it when our women are in their feelings, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's even more dangerous when a man gets into his feelings. And so if a man feels like he can't speak up, then he won't, and then it just ends up becoming something, built up, because it's gonna come out, you know what I'm saying, one way or another.
Yep.
And so I know that men are able to speak up, but like I said, they really, man, that feeling is such a big word, bro. When you say that, it's crazy, because I can only speak for, what I'm saying, the men that really just do it. Like I said, when we be speaking off camera, or when I see different people move a certain type of way, they not even really thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Now, you'll see someone else might get into their feelings, you know what I'm saying, behind what you said, but you like, all right, you didn't really think nothing of it. And so I think for, real men, I don't think it's a problem for them to speak up, but it's really the reaction, that we get. I believe I'm
Well,
gonna get.
that's what mainly I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do you it's kind of like you can try to rob a bank, but is it legal? No. Like, it's going to get shut down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're free to do it, but what's going to be the outcome? It might, it's a great analogy. No. But when I say, going into it, expecting a good reaction, I guess, like that end of it.
Yep. Because I've had conversations with, plenty of young women, like, the moment you say, hey, it's just the original. Hey, I don't want you to wear that, or can you do this for me, or, whatever the case may be. Or, hey, the dreaded, hey, you putting on a few pounds. I think that's kind of where you're getting at. Yeah, you could speak on it, but yeah, is that, what I'm saying, is that really gonna, is that gonna rub somebody the wrong way, or are they gonna, kind of overreact, so to speak? And so I think most men do choose, and I've learned that as well, choose to just disengage and not even speak on certain things, because not out of fear or even feeling like, we can't speak on it. It's just wanting to avoid, those overreactions, or someone escalating, these specific issues that you willing to speak on. You know what I'm saying? People don't really want to deal with themselves. And so I think real men really don't have a problem with speaking up at all. It's just it's who you telling, and of course it's on us and how we might be delivering it, or how long you've been waiting to speak on it. But I think that's big. Like, I think it's and that's why I said it's crucial, when it comes to these relationships. You know what I'm saying? If you're not speaking up and literally teaching and training your wife or significant other, girlfriend, how you like this or how you like that, it will go unnoticed, and you're not going to, I had to bring it back in, to the marriage and shit, but it will, you know what I'm saying, affect, your relationship. And then, like I said, next thing you're going to look up and figure out, you're not going to know who you're dealing with, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just the reality of it. And so, I wanna move on to this next topic, man. And the next topic was really just it was again it's all aligned with marriage because most men want the perfect woman. So the topic is really, you know, or my statement is the perfect woman does not exist, you know, and I definitely want your thoughts on, you know, what's your ideal, you know, woman, you know what I mean? Have you ever had like a type, man, or you know what I'm saying, or just, you know, like I said, or that perfect woman in your mind, man, and are you still looking, you know, for that, you know what I'm saying?
Um, Man, I have had a history with women, and I've never found the spot on when I met her perfect woman. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that there is a overall perfect woman. You know what I'm saying? Everybody likes different shit. Everybody's mindsets are different, interests, all of that. Perfect for me, I think someone can grow into that. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty advanced, I feel like mentally, because I've lived on my own for so long, and I got thrown into a situation where I'm in one of the biggest cities in the world by myself, no family, no nothing like that. So it's like grow up fast, learn people, or you're gonna get, you know, taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like you learn people, and when you learn that you couldn't care for them, if they lived at your crib for a month, you'd be like, yo, get the fuck out.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I've ran into enough of that, and maybe it was because these women were trying to give me love that I didn't want. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that was part of it. But even then, it's like small little things where it's like, ugh, I couldn't see myself dealing with you for a consistent amount of time, you know? So, nah, I mean, I really don't think it exists, but I do think people can grow in themselves to be the best for their partner.
Facts.
Yeah.
And that was basically in a nutshell, man. The perfect woman doesn't exist, man. It's basically what was my man saying? Uh, any man that thinks, or just any man that disagrees, like I said, you know what I'm saying, I can respectfully disagree as well, but that's something that you're looking for in your head, and you know, and that it's layers behind that, but the whole point, and it kind of goes back to your question, like, is, you know, you feel like men can't speak up. That's the only way you're gonna be able to at least mold your woman, if you have one, you know, into that quote unquote perfect woman for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you can't speak up and tell her, you know, and let her know this is what you like, this is what you don't like, you know what I'm saying? And also be able to, you know, pour into her, you know what I'm saying? And let her know some different things that you've been through, you know what I'm saying, that gives her a motive and understanding as to why you like this and you know, you like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that's the only way it's gonna work. You know what I'm saying? And I think why the numbers are 50-50. You feel what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure that's on. It's a reason why marriage, you know, and divorce is 50-50. You feel what I'm saying? Like
Really?
people joke and say you get married to divorce, but I think it's most people will say it's dying. I don't even think it's dying or dead. I just think the
Marriage.
way it's set up, yeah, legally set up, it's dumb. And then we trying to figure out. We think it's the woman. The woman, you know, thinks it's you or the man. And so but when you know, you both in a fucking maze, you know what I'm saying, but don't know it, you know what I'm saying. You gonna argue, you feel what I'm saying, go back and forth instead of trying to get out. And so I think, you know what I'm saying, my goal is more so just happy to kind of have gotten out of the rat race. You know what I'm saying? Of all of this shit and trying to give motherfuckers the real, bro. Like, and I think like that's why motherfuckers get mad at each other, because you know what I'm saying, I'm not that perfect guy that my girl wants me to be or thought. You know what I'm saying? Or I portrayed to be, and you damn sure ain't. You know what I'm saying? The perfect girl. You know what I'm saying? That I close my eyes and you know what I'm saying, wanted in my head and shit. So for me, having been free from that, you feel what I'm saying? It's just it helps me enjoy, you know what I'm saying, that relationship, you know, even more. You feel what I'm saying? But
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
For real, bro.
Yeah.
For real. But I wanted to talk about Steve Harvey too, bro. I want to make sure that I put my but and like I was telling you before, man, off camera, like I'm big on, and I definitely respect Steve Harvey for, what he's been able to do as a businessman. This nigga been on Family Feud.
I was gonna say,
what
had
else
had his own sitcom.
Yeah, but he be on Facebook. Like I said, he be doing the talk show host, all that type of stuff, man, and just, that really is player and dope. But
and the king of comedy, of course, gotta give it up.
He wasn't the funniest.
No, definitely not. But Bernie Mac washed that man. But
he's married to to a woman that still has communication with her ex-husband. That when it comes to slanging dope, I'm not tripping off none of that. I know, like I said, I know homies that slayed all of that. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily about what he did in his past, but you know what I'm saying. For his woman, we all know a woman's past speaks volumes. And so not only does she have that past, but she's still in communication with that past. So
do they have a child?
Yeah, she definitely got a kid with him. You know what I'm saying? But what's crazy is society's expecting to take relationship advice from, marriage advice from Steve Harvey, who, his marriage situation isn't one to sit on.
Envy.
Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? I would brag like most people and say shit. Mine is too. I like my. You should learn from me, but I'm also open to knowing that, even learning, like I'm not the type of motherfucker to tell you what to do. You know what I'm saying? That's why I fuck with. Shout out to Waking Up Beautiful. You know what I mean? Because that's why I really fuck with. You know what I'm saying, with your content, because my goal isn't necessarily to tell a motherfucker what to do. It's just the very least maybe recommend, like,
drop some gems,
this is
man.
this is what I'm on, this is what I learned. If I was you, you know what I'm saying, before you did it.
Yeah, something I peeped is you give a different perspective to certain things. Like I said, I mean, if y'all haven't watched the narcissist episode yet, definitely go do that.
For sure.
I plan on having him on Waking Up Beautiful because his content's so damn good. You know what I'm saying? Like, thought-provoking shit. You feel me? Really make you look in the mirror.
Oh, no. I thought you had something more going on after that, man.
Oh, no. I didn't want to ramble on too much.
But, no, I appreciate that, man, for real. We're going to definitely make that work. But but with Steve Harvey, yeah, man. Back to Steve Harvey, bro.
How did he get his position on... Because I feel like all he did was drop the book snitching on every nigga. And then, like, they playbook, basically.
And I thought that book was fake, bro. I thought it was, like, a part of the movie.
So did I.
You feel what I'm saying? But when I was at, bro, that was when I was going to IUPUI. And I literally seen it in the Barnes & Noble. That's what it's called? Yeah, Barnes & Noble at the school. I'm like, wow, this nigga just cheesing. But it's not like a diss to where, because, and that's another thing, as a man, there are good things. It's like eating the meat, spitting out the bones. There's some things to be able to learn from him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the relationship aspect, no, bro. You need to sit on the sideline. You need to hit the bench. There's plenty, what I'm saying? And I know, more men are like that, know how to deal, know how to talk. You know what I'm saying? It's not about handling a woman. Trust and believe, men don't want to handle a woman. Hey, ladies, men don't want to handle you. The moment he has to handle you, trust and believe, it's not even an exit route, because it's not, and that's a whole nother thing. Like, niggas are not afraid of y'all. I want to be very clear. If I don't get it all, I want to get it all nipped in the bud. Men are not afraid of y'all. Sometimes it's more so because guys just are good guys. They really do still consider those feelings that y'all do have. You feel what I'm saying? So. But it comes out of love, you know what I'm saying, bro? But with Steve, he's telling men, you know what I'm saying, to basically just put they pockets up. He has no ideas, in my opinion, how many young men, including myself, are sitting back listening to what he has to say, in regards to marriage. And so if what you saying is telling me to put my money first, you know what I'm saying, put my money up, I'm still in the process of building and growing, you know what I'm saying? So that also goes back into why men should continue to consider that commitment, you know what I'm saying? if a OG is telling you to, you know, move a certain type of way and you're not in that position, why would you even, you know what I'm saying, put yourself in that position? And so, but again, when you got a man that, you know, why would you take it? Would you take advice from, you know what I'm saying, a big fat motherfucker, you know what I'm saying, that doesn't work out on how to work out? No. So you shouldn't take advice on somebody who's on their third marriage, you feel what I'm saying, whose third wife is still dealing with, you know what I'm saying? I'm just not going.
That's crazy.
Because this shit is,
You definitely dropping facts on me that I didn't know quite know.
I didn't
about
know
Steve
either.
Harvey.
You feel what I'm saying? But it was always something about this nigga. I'm like, yeah, he cool, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, yeah, when you got money, it's easy to look, you know what I'm saying, even a little bit more suave. But I'm like, bro, it's just something ain't right. And so when it opened up and I found out, I'm like, oh, that's exactly why. Like I said, you don't let
Makes
nobody
sense.
tell you shit.
Yeah. Because that's another thing, you know, when it's, I was going to say something about it being a wealthy person giving me advice, you know what I'm saying? Because women, I don't want to say all women, but you can make women happy with gifts. You know what I'm saying? So if you can afford that, you have different routes you can take. You have different scapegoats and, you know, say second lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas if you a broke nigga trying to make the shit work, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, let's say you are hustling and you know, you're not seeing a whole lot from the hustle right away. You know what I'm saying? And the other job that you got take up 8-9 hours of the day, and you come home and you hustle, you trying to hustle and all of that. And it's like a woman will hit you with the broke nigga, you not spending enough time with me. And it'd be like, wait a minute. Wait, what?
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? Like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Chill with you and be a broke nigga, or go and work and you tell me that I'm not shit because I'm not spending enough time with you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the burden, you know what I'm saying, that a man takes on. Like, you don't know that it's a burden, and it's not gonna scream burden, burden, burden. But you know what I'm saying, it's the reason why, you know, you're drained when you trying to come to an understanding of something like that. Like, motherfucker, if I'm gone and working all day, you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna be able to be there. This is and it's even, bro, you like said, you know, we try to coin these, you know, these episodes, but it's bigger than marriage, y'all. You feel what I'm saying? It's life in general, but it's whether you married or you in a relationship and y'all living together, you know what I'm saying, or you have kids or you don't have kids. When you away and you trying to build and grow and become, you know what I'm saying, that best version of you, you know what I'm saying, that this, that, and the third, it involves not being around that particular person while they are supposedly, you know, building and supposed to be, you know, becoming the best version of themselves, you know what I mean? And so you away, yeah, hopefully you are making good paper and good, you know, coin to, you know, come back and take care, but you got to balance that out. So when the weekends come, that's what the weekend is for, but it's not about arguing about semantics, you know what I'm saying? And that's just the whole reason, like, you know, and again, it's good business. It keeps the content going, you know what I'm saying? But my goal is to not necessarily just, end the conversation. I'm trying to, you know, turn the knob. The shit's been staticky to me for a long time, bro. And so having been, like I said, in marriage now, and I can, like I said, I can speak on, you know, I can speak on motherfuckers like Steve Harvey and shit. Nigga, you ain't never been married. Yup, yes, I have. I'm still married. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just trying to, yeah, I said it already. Yeah, just trying to change the knob, man. Just switch it up, bro, because, and put a little bit of, you know, ammunition, you know what I'm saying, on the other side, because I'm personally just tired of hearing not just the same old shit, but it constantly trying to shame or batter, you know what I'm saying, or just some type of negative aspect. Like I said, that's why I brought up, you know what I'm saying, the narcissism episode and things of that nature. And so, yeah, shout out to the narcissist episode, man. Definitely check that out, man. If you haven't already, you know, like, follow, subscribe, you know what I'm saying, however you, you know, viewing this, man, definitely, man, just show the love for real. We appreciate it. But that's another reason why, man, my goal is to just tear down these negative aspects, man, that are literally pointed at men for no reason at all. You know what I'm saying? Well, let me not say no reason at all, because there's definitely some some lame-os.
Well,
and,
I
and
definitely
shit,
feel
yeah,
that
let me-
there is reasons,
yeah.
but I feel like we're
real
at
man.
right
And that's
now-
why it's tough to speak. Like I said, I
Nah,
think it's,
bro, it's
it
the-
goes back to your original question. Like, why men speak, because it really is tough, because I really, know, like I said, there's different ears listening. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's not about trying to please each ear, but just you want to make sure that you clear, about what you're saying. But I'm only saying, like, when a good man, like, bro, you show up on time and you do what you're supposed to do, you handle your business, and motherfuckers saying you ain't shit. That's like me saying you suck at modeling, or you fucking you ugly, or you terrible at cameras. You don't, and you're like, what? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I was speaking on, like, for no reason at all. But there's definitely douchebags out here who deserve, you know what I'm saying, to be deadbeats and this, that, and the third. But I'm speaking
trying to
on
do
men
shit.
who really handling their business, man, and doing their
Yeah.
thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But my last topic, I don't know where we are on time. I know you good, but
44.
we at 44. Okay, do you want to get into interracial relationships?
We could touch on it.
You want to touch on it?
Yeah.
Say
Or
Wait.
we can save it for the next
yeah, we'll
situation.
We'll save it, man.
If you
'Cause I didn't think we
if a
was
guest don't show up when they say they supposed to.
shout out to my guest, man. We gonna chalk it up to scheduling, man. Things of that nature. But like I said, man, we got some special guests, man, on the way. Hopefully, but now we got some special things in tune for y'all. But we'll save the interracial shit for later, man. But until next time, man. Shane, how can people follow you, man? Because I don't think people up on that Wake Up Beautiful yet, man. But how can people follow you and find you, man?
Man, they can follow me at Shane Curiton _ that's SHAYNECURETON _
All right, say less. Hey, man, appreciate y'all stopping by. We got merch on the way, man. We coming in hot. You feel what I'm saying? But again, we appreciate you sliding through. Until next time, peace.